Just checking to make sure that the live is operational. Here we go. Okay, we're live.
Just checking to make sure that the live is.
Okay, let me just, if anyone can hear us, can you just comment on the post and let us know that you actually can hear us, and that would be great. Okay, great. We're live. Welcome, everyone. And hello everyone, and welcome to the launch of the B2B Growth and GTM webinar series. This is Taha Ali, and tonight is the first of 6 conversations we're having this summer with operators who actually are building B2B revenue engines in the MENA region. So not the global voices passing through, not the consultants explaining frameworks only. I'm talking about the operators who are actually inside the build right now. So tonight's webinar matters more for anyone running a B2B company, so B2B founders and revenue leaders mostly, because tonight is about the moment that decides whether your company is going to be big. And it's the moment that when you stop being the seller and start being the architect. So as the founder, as the original closer, as the person who handled every big deal and turned it into a system that runs without you, and a system that actually scales, and you can delegate that system to other people. So most B2B founders sell brilliantly. They know the product, they know how to sell, they know the customer. And the hard part is all about building the engine that actually makes them sell without it having them in the picture. So tonight is what this is all about, and our guest tonight has helped over 10,000 startups make this exact transition we're talking about here, across 12 countries, including most of the markets you guys are operating in. So he's 3-time exited founder. His first exit was back when he was 22. He spent 8 years in HubSpot, where he led HubSpot for startups across Africa, Central and Eastern Europe, and the Middle East as well. And now he's actually the head of GTM and instantly building an AI native go-to-market engine from the inside. So Owen, thanks for coming in and welcome to the series.
Thank you so much, and I'm very fortunate to be the first person in. So thank you so much for asking me.
You're totally welcome. So the first time we met, I think that was like 2 years ago in Egypt, in an event called Rise Up in the Grand Egyptian Museum. If you can remember, you were delivering a very interesting workshop about all-bound, if you can remember, rather than just outbound. This was an eye-opener for me, to be honest, and ever since we've been talking ever since. So we have a very interesting topic to discuss today, and it's all about AI-powered GTM scaling beyond the founder. I actually asked the guys we have at the B2B Growth community about what are you guys to listen more about, and I made them choose between growth leadership, GTM systems, and some other stuff. And you can bet the GTM systems all the way in the top by it's like the second choice doesn't even come close. So that was very interesting. So I'm excited for tonight's webinar, and you can just go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take over from here. So yeah, I think genuinely one of my favorite venues I was ever at was that one at Rise Up Summit. It was incredible to be surrounded by such history, but also for me I've been managing and working the Middle East and Africa for a very long time. I'm talking 6-7 years, and it was infectious to get the level of excitement about the change in what I was pushing at the time, which was outbound. That change in mentality was really wonderful to see how people were taking it on board. And I think one of the cool things about sort of the Middle East and Africa is that you have to be adaptable, right? You have to be resourceful. You have to be clever. You have to figure your way around things rather than just taking what the status quo is. And I think today's session is going to hopefully be a bit eye-opening for some of us on the call, right? That one of my favorite topics is helping founders actually move themselves away from sales, because it's fundamentally the bottleneck that causes founders issues in the long run. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean it causes them issues because it's hard to do, or it causes them issues because they don't want to outsource it. What really ends up happening is we get fixated on the control aspect of building our companies and building our scale, right? And for me, control is great, but you can get that same level of control by building the system in the correct way. So I always start my session with something very simple in this case. And I'm always talking about, and anyone that's ever heard me speak will hear me talk about this $3,200 wake-up call that I want every founder to have. And what that really is with startups and scale-ups, or with companies that are growing, especially in emerging markets, we pick lots of different tools. We try and link them all together, and we think that magic is going to happen. And the simple truth, what ends up happening is we get silos. And as a founder, the only way to have control over the silo is to be in the weeds. Guess what?
Yeah.
You don't need to be in the weeds, right? You don't. You need to build a system that's going to help you there. So that's the number one killer I see for founders today, is that they think they need too much when they don't. Less is more. Simplicity beats complexity every day of the week, right? And I always say to people, the old framework of predictable growing the business is now dead, right? The old model used to be revenue equals sales reps multiplied by activity multiplied by conversion. That doesn't exist anymore. So 2024 was that like perfect storm. And it's actually, funnily enough, when we met was 2024. Was we were just at that cusp of things were getting confusing in the market. ChatGPT was a year and a bit old. Anthropic and Claude was just about breaking into the market, right? What we see, capital had a huge decrease, which meant that founders just weren't able to get their hands on money as easily. The interest rates all increased. Everyone found it really, really hard to do business. And then AI came and exploded. And for a founder, right? And again, I look at this in a very simplistic mindset, is, can I do less with more? Can I expand and grow my business by doing less, but having more visibility over all the things that are being done, and being able to outsource a little bit of my my sales process as best possible, right? So when I look at, and this was a study done by HubSpot back in 2025, but it was over 500 venture-backed startups, right? And we can see with AI, if you are linking AI to what you're building, right, you are going to see a reduction in your cost of acquisition. You're going to see a higher likelihood for upsells, up to 72%, and your response time increases by 3x. The interesting thing about that research that I always take from this is there's that tool chaos became even clearer to me. 48 hours to respond to a lead. So in the chat, right, I want people just to quickly pop in. How, if I was to go to your website today or to speak to you through social media, how long would it take you to get back to me? And be honest. If I was to fill in a form or reach out to you on social media, how long do you think it would take you to get back to me? I know I have a prompt on the screen. But the average...
It's going to take them like 30 seconds buffer between here and the live actual broadcast. But there is an interesting HubSpot statistic that I've read recently that if you waited until you respond to your customer for more than like 5 minutes or 1 hour, you're pretty much lost the lead. Yeah, it was like it was a huge percentage. I cannot remember how much, but it was huge. So yeah, I totally agree.
78% is the actual number.
Yeah.
So 78% of all customers will buy from the person that responds to them first. But the average response time for a startup customer, or for a startup or a scale up, is 48 hours. That is crazy. In the AI age, that is crazy. And worse still, 67% never actually get followed up to, never even contact the person.
Yeah.
Like,
and it does take like multiple touch points, up to 8, until you get a deal done. So, but this is
the thing that always frustrates me is this isn't complex. We don't have to build a fancy, overly complex AI engine. Everyone's getting too excited about what's sexy and what's cool. You know what's cool? Responding to your customer in 5 minutes. Right? So when I say to founders, I'm like, we just need to build simplicity in our process. And if we can build simplicity, we're gonna build a really thriving business, right? So I'm gonna give you as an example of an ideal customer, and I try and get this true to everyone. Is, again, the unsexy is what will make your business really successful, and is what will make you move away from founder selling into a sales motion in general, right? So here's an example of an ideal customer profile. Her name is Gabby. She's 35, between 55. She's a founder, a chief revenue officer, or a revenue ops leader. She's in a company that is between a seed and Series D, and she's responsible for decision-making growth within the company, right? She's customer obsessed, right? She's a change agent. She wants to make change in her business. She's got a growth mindset. She spends her time reading things like the Atomic Habits or the Huber Lab podcast. She's into her bike, into Headspace, into audio books, and so on and so forth, right? I'm not going to go through everything. But I can paint a very pretty picture of Gabby, right? Which means that for me, then, it's easy to build a motion or a GTM motion that will speak to Gabby, right? Putting a name to your target persona is also really helpful, because then everyone in your company will understand who it is that you're talking to. I joined HubSpot 9 years ago. When I joined them, we were given an A4 piece of paper with our 4 ICPs on it. Every single person in the company. So I'm not talking about just in sales or marketing. I'm talking about our developers, the people that clean the kitchen. I'm talking about the people that literally clean the toilets, to the people that were on the front desk. I mean, everyone understood our buyer personas, and that helped every single person understand who it was we were building the company for. And we're doing the exact same thing at the moment in Instantly, where we're really getting overly customer focused so that we can actually all speak about our personas to each other, and we know exactly who it is that we're targeting. And this is the unsexy stuff that people don't do as we're scaling our business.
Yeah, I think Amazon took this one step further. They dedicated a seat in every meetings room for the customer. Nobody sits on it, just to make sure that the customer has a say in every decision. So you're totally spot on.
And again, it's simplicity, right? It's not complexity. It's not an AI model. It's not making amazing things. It's like remembering that you're building a company not for yourself. You're building a company for your customer.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that we have that in mind, right? Especially as we scale into different countries or different segments, we have to get overly fixated about who it is that we're trying to cater for, right? And then I break this up into what I call, or what I've coined, my 3-step AI powered GTM framework, right? Bit of a mouthful, but it's a 3-step framework, very straightforward. Attract, engage, delight. Most of us would have heard about this, but what I try and take as a core philosophy is simplicity scales, complexity breaks.
Exactly.
Right? Simplicity is what makes things work, right? Going back to that statistic that you gave me, right? Which was speed wins deals. The responder who responds first wins 78% of all opportunities. If you respond fast, people will come back to you. And then let data help you make decisions, right? Do not use the I think or I feel framework, because that is your fastest way of failure. Nobody cares what you think, apart from yourself and maybe your partner and potentially your mother. No one else cares.
Interesting. This is actually spot on. I have a screenshot right in front of me for Alex Hormozy, who might be familiar with the guy. He says a very interesting topic. This is the first time that I had a screenshot and just put it in front of me in the entire time. It says beating 99%. I'm just reading it. This is it.
Yeah.
Beating 99% of the people is simple, but it's not easy. It's all about showing up early, preparing the day before. One of the things that he says, it's all about doing the basics at scale consistently. What makes you advanced? There is no magic potion.
No. I couldn't agree more. Like, and I think like I've become I have a bullshit detector. Obsessed with themselves, and I know when someone's obsessed with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who's obsessed with the customer is always going to be the one that wins. They mightn't get the most venture-backed funding, but they're going to be the ones that I am watching them IPO or getting sold to private equity in 5 to 7 years. Always, right? And the way I would sort of say this again for anyone that's on the call that's like sort of thinking about, right, how do I take a step back and get involved in more of like understanding the customer better, Owen, and how do I outsource my sales? Well, we're going to start with how do we build this and how do we build the attract motion, right? So the attract motion again is simple, not easy, right? So the way I look at this is I start with the foundations. I break it up into, and we'll send this deck onto everyone afterwards so you can see it, okay? But what I would say is day 1 to 2 is we want to do an audit of all the different things that we're currently doing. We want to look then at every tool that touches a prospect, and we want to map that out. Then what we want to do is we want to calculate the true cost. So what is the cost? So the time and money cost for each one of those tools. And then we merge them into a unified platform. Now, that platform could be whatever it is that works the best for you or you're most comfortable with, right? there's lots of different examples that I can give for this, right? It could be you want to use a CRM, or you want to use an outbound tool, or you want to use AI, right? That's perfectly fine. Or you want to vibe code something. Again, also perfectly fine, right? Whatever it is that works for you guys, make sure that it's what will work. But the idea is we unify that as much as we can, right? Then day 3 to 7 is what I call the content machine, right? This is where we start this motion to move away from sort of too much founder sales, right? One is we want to start building an inbound motion, right? So one is over 30 days, we're going to do 30 days worth of content in 30 minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to define our content pillars. So again, very simply, problem awareness, solution education, product differentiation.
Exactly.
Right? We then create a brief on AI. So whatever your tool is, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Just use an AI to make your life easier. And then the idea is we basically give it a brief. So we tell it our target persona, we tell it the pain points that our customers face, and we tell it then what types of companies we target, and then our tone. So I joke all the time, I try and be funny. I'm not funny, but I tell my AI to make me funny, right? Because that's how I'd like to be known, okay? It doesn't happen very often, but I try, okay? But you are telling it what way you want that to be done, right? Then what we go and do is we create 3 LinkedIn posts, a blog post, and an email newsletter once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So what that will do now is we can do the post on LinkedIn through your personal page or through your company page, whatever you feel more comfortable with, okay? So again, I'm an advocate at the moment for personal branding because I know it personally worked for me, even though I was the biggest naysayer in the world about it. I don't like posting on the internet. I love speaking to founders. I do not like being an influencer on LinkedIn. It's not really for me. But I have to do it because it's part of my job and it works. I can drive leads and it works every time, okay? So I'm not saying everyone has to do it.
I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Although I consider myself as an introvert, I'm not really an out there kind of guy, but it's just like how the GTM motion is going to work. So if this is what it takes, this is what I'm going to do. So 100%.
And if you care about building revenue, right, I think you put yourself outside of your comfort zone, right? That's the way I sort of think about it. It'll help me build the business that I want to work in. And that's what I try and look at. So some statistics, right? Just to start off with our content motion. If you do this, right, most marketeers will say that 76%, your speed to have content is 76% lower, right? You'll increase your inbound leads by 9x and you'll improve your engagement rates by 3x, right? That's literally 5 pieces of content a week, and it'll take you 30 minutes to do a week of it, right? So there's no excuse why you can't do it other than you don't want to, right? And then you don't really want revenue, is the way I would look at it. The next part of this is a lead magnet, right? Again, forget about yourself. Forget about how brilliant your product and your service is. Nobody cares. Nobody, right? I don't care how wonderful your product is. Tell me what it's going to do for me, right? So ROI calculators, benchmark reports, templates that they can help with, mini courses, something that will help the customer, not you. If you lead with features, you are going to fail.
Absolutely. You have to look into value drivers, what the customer actually cares about. Based on the
100%.
Based on the jobs to be done of the target persona that you're targeting, what are the pain points that socially, emotionally, and functionally, and what the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. When we did this across our clients to actually map out the jobs to be done for each persona, so we're talking about the CFO is different from we're talking to the CEO, is different from we're talking about the CDO.
Yeah.
Every persona has to have an answer for your question, which is what's in it for me, what's for not just for my company, for me as a total working inside the company. So
100%. And
when
it's so important to think about not just the decision maker, but also the user, the end user, because they're just as important. And I argue the person that signs checks is the most important person.
absolutely,
And they're typically, if you're selling to enterprise customers, that's a client, that's a procurement manager. If it's a mid-sized company, it's probably going to be the CEO / the head of finance. So think about what they care about, and they really only care about two things: making money or saving money.
exactly.
So make sure that you can articulate that to them in the best way possible. And then the same thing is, don't gate your content. Like if you're going to do content or you're going to do resources, don't overly gate it, right? What I would say to people is a maximum of 3 questions, right? We live in an AI age. So name, email, address is all you really need at this day and age. You don't need to know their company. You don't need to know the revenue size. I can literally quickly find that out in about 12 seconds if I really want to know how big a company is, right? So keep it simple. And I say to people all the time, keep it simple, stupid, right? Keep it so simple, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Right? That will help people do it, right? Another simple trick that I have with this, not trick, but another simple like process with this as well is when you're building website pages or you're building things on social media, right? Keep it under 20 words. Again, it sounds really simple. A clear valuation. If you cannot explain what you do in less than 20 words, that's a you problem. You don't understand your product or service enough if you cannot explain what it can do in less than 5 seconds.
Absolutely.
A trick for anyone that's in sales or that's building that sort of sales motion is, don't be afraid to say, if I'm selling a software product or an AI product or something like that, I'm the Uber of, or because all of a sudden people very simply understand that. I'm the Amazon of, I'm the Google of, okay? That again, as you're building the company, it's the easiest way to explain something to someone is to anchor it to something they already know.
Exactly. Percent. If they belong to a certain category and that would be totally relatable, it would save them a lot of time to yap about what they are. And to be honest, usually the companies that we typically engage in, when they try to create an outbound engine in their company, they just want to get into with the tactics, the tools, and the list building, and so on and so forth. It's all about execution rather than we need to do a go-to-market strategy first. We need to understand the ideal customer profile and the pain points and the gains they want to try to achieve, and then the value drivers that actually moves the needle for those guys, and then mapping to those to be a content pillars. When we actually do that, literally, like the response rate for the campaigns that gets done based on this research done first is literally like 4 to 5x the response rate. When we only know what to hit on, what kind of pain points that gets this person triggered, it's much easier. It's way easier to get a response from a client like that.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I think and we're going to get onto some statistics from Instantly on outbound, because I think it's really interesting. Everyone has a particular perception, but we'll dive into that in a second. But the other thing that I would always say to people is get ridiculously good at understanding your metrics. So I've a couple of metrics on the screen now that I would recommend that everyone should know off the top of their head, which would be visitor to lead. So how many people visit your website and then convert into a lead? How many of those leads convert into a deal? So I have marketing qualified lead here, but really what I mean by they've either booked time in someone's calendar or they've literally spoken to a human is probably the way I would look at that. And then I would look at content engagement of around 3 to 5%, right? So again, very simple metrics, but they'll let you know whether you're in the right place, right? And then let's get into a little bit more around the outbound side, right? So I took some of the statistics from Instantly's benchmark guide. So if anyone CTA, if anyone wants to see more of it, you can just go on Instantly's website. There's a benchmark guide on their homepage, and this is a bit of a summary of that. Okay, but what I really want to highlight to people is, right, so we get the basics done by making sure that our content is really clear on our website. We have a form that's really short. We have certain things that we've built that are very simple, right, so that we have a lead flow and it's really, really straightforward. With outbound, right, what I would say to everyone is this is you going direct to the customer. So whether that's in the form of email, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, whatever the medium is, it's irrelevant. What we're going to talk about today is just trying to find those people. So going back to my growth Gabby, we need to know who she is before we do outbound. Pray and spray does not work. Okay? And I'm going to show you why it doesn't work. So the screen that I have open in front of me right now is showing us signals. All right? So the reply rate monstrously increases by the number of signals that you have. So if we have a 2 to 3x number of signals, sorry, this stack is the wrong way around. So 6+ signals will give you a 14% reply rate. So the numbers will change based on the number of signals you have. So again, my apologies. I don't know why this reverted in the wrong way around for me. But the more signals you have, the higher likelihood for success in a reply rate you have. Now, you're probably asking me, Owen, what is a signal? Well, a signal can be a multitude of different things, right? So what a good signal will be is something along the lines of a job change, an industry role, custom research, and so on and so forth. So an L1 personalization is going to give you about a 1 to 3% open rate or reply rate, right? This is things like you're optimizing for their name or their role. This works if you're doing pray and spray campaigns for a big industry that is maybe small biz. So let's say you're trying to sell a e-commerce product to you're selling your Shopify and you're selling to e-commerce owners. That's a huge amount of people. It's going to be really hard to personalize that for everyone. If I'm selling directly to banks, I've got about 6 banks. Let's say take Egypt. We've got 6 banks in Egypt. I'm not going to have the same effect with them. So I need to be super detailed to what I'm doing. And this flies back into our growth Gabby. So for instance, if you look at this L4 example, this will probably take 15 to 60 minutes to do a deep dive of sort of a review on multi-different touch points, custom assets to a really small group of people, right? If I'm trying to target a mid-market size company, so let's say somewhere between 500 and 1,500 employees, I'm going to use triggers like job role changes. Have they got a new piece of software? What's their revenue numbers looking like, and so on and so forth, depending on the type of message that I'm sending to them. So depending on the type of industry you're going after will massively depend on the level of personalization you put in there. Okay. And again, I think people get this wrong because a lot of people will just do probably level 2. And most GTM engineers on the market at the moment will tell me that L2 is enough.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
We have to go a little bit deeper. And if we're selling to big enterprise, we have to go super deep, right? With outbound.
Exactly.
Now, with that in mind, right, I'm also a big nerd for my statistics, right, in general, as you can probably tell. And,
we are.
and with this, I'm like, there's a couple of things that like I would say, right? So E1 is email 1, just as a quick example.
Yeah.
The way I would look at this is keep it soft at the beginning. Use a CTA like worth exploring. Don't add your calendar straight away,
Yeah.
right? You only add the calendar and email for, right? So ask questions, try and get engagement, right? And that's or make the offer so big it's hard to say no to. And if you look at the statistics of this, right, we can see that the interest CTA has essentially a 2x in the first email response rate in comparison to an email straight away. And the same thing as time goes on, it matters slightly less at this point in position 3. And that's why we position the calendar in email 4.
Yeah.
So we try ultimately not pushing them too hard, especially with cold. We want to build them in softly and warm them up naturally. Make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Going with the high friction CDA at first is a mood killer, and it sounds salesy, and nobody wants to reply to that. So make it value first. Yeah, you have to build the trust, build the rapport first, and before you start pitching.
100%. And the wildest thing about this, I find, is the email 1 is actually the most important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I used to think it was way further down the line, but it's actually the very first one, right? So nearly 70% of total replies happen in email 1.
Absolutely.
So get really good at email 1 copy, right? The rest, very little relevance. The first email is the most important. Yes, right? We want to keep following up with them over a period of time, and we want to extend the number of days per additional outreach. But the first conversation, I'm using email as the example here, right? It could be WhatsApp, it could be LinkedIn, InMails. The medium doesn't make a difference. The statistics stay the same.
Yeah, but
really the first interaction with you is the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot agree more. But this specific philosophy that you're sharing here is especially important when it comes to email, because naturally email is the lowest response rate when compared to LinkedIn and WhatsApp, at least in our region here in the Middle East. So this is especially important in email. And actually, I've tried something like that. You were talking about when your TAM is small, you have to go and when you're selling to enterprise, you have to go really deep in research about the company. I actually used Cloud Cowork to research companies before we send outreach to them, and to stress this concept as a case study, by the way. And when I did that, I only sent for a specific segment of clients. I only sent Owen for like 18 emails only. I didn't even use things like Instantly or Smartly to send those emails. I just used Gmail because I wasn't pushing a lot of emails. It was just all about quality rather than quantity here. And
the more your systems learn that, though, the better your copy will be for bigger, more mass outreach.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I can totally relate to that, because the outcome of the case study that I was just sharing with you, it was like 2 out of 18 people actually responded within like 2 days.
Yeah.
And this wasn't like a mass outreach. It was just like very targeted, very well researched, and it was spot on. So
as long as your order value or your annual contract value is high for those customers, and I think that's the most important thing, is if the value, and I always go back to like value selling, like if the value to the sale makes sense, well then that's the perfect use case. But if I'm selling a product that's $50, if I'm selling $1 that's $50 a month, then that's not really going to work as well for me.
Yeah, it's not going to be worth it.
No. And I think as time goes on as well, you become very, very good at figuring out where you send those messages, how much level of detail you go to. And I think the next part of that is what I always say to people is like, as we take this as a bit of a takeaway from the outbound journey, it's like this send to triggered accounts, right? So untriggered accounts, you're going to have a really low response rate. Send to the ones that you actually have done a bit of research on or you understand, right? Have a level of understanding about them, right? Earn the reply. You're never expecting to get it, right? If you can really be clever with your CTAs and the deliverability of value, that will make your life easier, right? The other thing I would say with this is don't undervalue your deliverability score on your emails, and even your trust score on like WhatsApp or on LinkedIn, right? You have to build that as time goes on. If you start like mass sending to big volume and doing pray and spray campaigns, you're going to get yourself into trouble, right? Put a lot of effort into email one or LinkedIn one or WhatsApp number one, right? And then match your effort to the average contract value. Okay? Don't spend lots of time if they're low value and it's a small, medium-sized business, right? Put in the effort if it's a very large enterprise client. Like pick what you need, right? And be very good with your numbers, because if you can figure out your numbers, it's going to make your life easier, right? The next step of this then is step 2, which is engagement, right? So to go back to my simplicity framework here, 78% of all wins go to the person that responds first. It still to me is crazy that people take two days to respond to people. I just don't understand it. I don't think I'll ever understand it, if I'm being honest. And it's the first thing that I do with every company I join or any company I consult in. How long does it take your customers to do? Before I join them, I fill in every website page. I click on every chat button. I speak to anything that will speak to the customer, and I will map out exactly how long it takes them to respond. Every one of you can do that today in your own businesses. Yep. And if you do not get responded to in more than 5 minutes, fix it. Fix it today, right? It's the easiest win that you'll ever make in your business, right? After 5 minutes, your conversion rate drops by 400%. Let that sink in for a second. 400%. If anyone gave me, and then people talk bullshit about growth hacking and whatever other GTM tactics there are, this is the single greatest GTM tactic you will ever come across.
Yep. Highest ROI.
If I could give you 400% extra, would you take it from me?
Absolutely.
Within a bloody heartbeat, you would. Okay? So simplicity wins, right? Framework's really simple. When someone fills in a form, you trigger an automation. Use whatever tool you want to. I'm going to show you my example that I used on HubSpot. We do this exact same thing instantly in our own tool as well, right? But I'm going to show you the one in HubSpot because it's just one I built. Soon as someone fills in a form, they go through an AI, which then checks their URL and maps it to their ICP. If they're a good fit, if they're a good fit or a bad fit, they still go through the same flow. If it's a good fit, it gets rotated between 3 salespeople on my team, and they automatically get an email with a meeting booking link. Instantaneous, right? If they're a bad fit, they get an email to basically tell them, thank you, but no thank you. You're not going to speak to a human, but here is some resources that we can help you out. If I don't have enough information, or if I feel like I don't have enough information to fit into one of my ICP buckets, then I will have a dig in button, and then I will bring a human into the loop.
Oh, okay.
All right. Very simple. That took me about, no exaggeration, about 4 minutes to build.
Yeah.
Right. Every one of you can do this on your own tools, on a very simple workflow. And there's a million different ways you can do this, right? I'm showing you the one that I use and I've used for years, and it's what I would get my customers on when I consult with companies. This is what I would get them to use. Very simple, very straightforward formula. So all the time we know that within 1 minute, someone in my team is going to get notified about a hot lead, if they're a hot lead. If they're not a hot lead, we disqualify them. Perfect, right? And then what I would always try and encourage my sales teams to do is, even though we're sending them a meeting link, I will get them to connect with them on LinkedIn, and I might get them to send a voice note, or I might get them to send a WhatsApp, or I might get them to send a video, something personal with their voice.
Absolutely.
Right? Again, it just helps. Honestly, conversion rate, you can see a spike in conversion rate from it, right? Humans like to buy from humans, particularly in the Middle East. We like speaking. We like meeting people face to face. But if we can't do it face to face, at the very least we can do is we can speak to that person.
Yeah. Building
in
on
the instant they want to speak to us.
Yeah. Building
now,
on what
we can automate this. We can make it. We can use AI. We can do all this sort of stuff. I'm still a big fan of the human touch. I still think sales needs a human touch. And for us then as founders, right, as we're scaling this is the motion that you build a dashboard and a report to say, how long does it take our sales team to follow up with someone? If it's less than 5 minutes, we can go and speak to them, right? We can still then have control over the sales process by seeing what's going on without actually having to be in the middle of it. Right? And again, that's the kind of commonality that I see. We again get too fixated about being in the middle of it, right? We tier them then, and again, this is my cheat sheet for how I tier people. Again, I will use things like social proof or the type of company or so on and so forth, and I will give them hot leads based on that. These are examples. You can use my examples to be, your testing point. What I would always say is make sure you use multi-channel. So email, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, phones, so on and so forth, right? Don't be afraid to try different things. It will make your life easier. And then the very last piece of this is what everyone then forgets about is the delight stage. When we get someone in as a customer, we've paid for them, right? Or they've paid us. Again, the simplest tactic to grow your business is referrals. Right? Very simple. The cost of acquisition for a new customer is somewhere between 5,000 and 3,800 on average. The cost of acquisition of a current customer is 380 to 3,800. It's a 10x saving.
Wow. It's huge.
Could it be easier?
Yeah.
And it's a 90% decrease in the amount of effort it takes to convince a new customer to upgrade and cross-sell than it is for you to get a new customer. Simple maths. Again, I'm not blowing anyone's mind here with cool AI features. What I am is I'm the simple guy. Right? I am going to make your business better by making you less complex.
Exactly. Gotcha.
Right?
Makes total sense.
And again, how do we do this? Your 48 hours is the window of time you have to make or break a customer. So when you get a new customer in there, right, we don't need fancy customer success teams. We have a welcome video personal from the founder. Hey, welcome to the family. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the product. Welcome to the service. You do one, you never have to do it again, right? Very simple. You make sure they have your login details if you're selling a software. If you're a service business, tell them exactly what you're going to do and get them to do one quick win within the first 10 minutes of signing a contract with you. Get them to do something that will make them feel like they've got an outcome on day one. And that's 10 seconds later, right? And then within 2 to 24 hours, give them a detailed plan of exactly what's going to happen. Put some calendar invites to it. We can automate this as much as we want to as well, right? So again, we can build automation into it. And then make sure that we touch base with them within the first 24 to 48 hours. At least have a conversation with them or invite them to the community or make them feel like they're part of your organization. Again, it'll make your life easier, right? And to give you some numbers of this, right, it is very, very simple to do. it's very simple to say this. It's very hard to actually do. But what I would say is, again, just think about the value, right? Day 1, foundations. Day 3, first value. Day 7, expansion. Day 14, validation. By day 14, they should feel comfortable in what you're doing. Again, regardless of what your business is. We want to keep it so simple that it works for us, right? And then build a health score. So again, be good with your numbers, right? For me, I've worked in software for a very long time, so I'm obsessed with daily active users is my metric that I'm overly obsessed with. Because I know if someone's using the platform and using our product, I know that they're going to stay and they're going to be sticky, right? So look at that. Value, outcomes, again, another easy one. And then relationship and support, right? Make them feel like they're supported. If they're speaking to support, they're engaging with people, they're speaking with people, that's a really good indication that they're going in the right direction, right? And then again, expand and then build a referral engine. Again, it's the easiest way that you're going to make money long term, right? Celebrate the wins, get case studies, social proof, all of the statistics down here on the bottom, just double down my feelings on retention, right? Keeping a happy customer, they'll tell 3 people. If you have a bad customer, they'll tell 10 people about your option. So keep them happier. It's just easier. Honestly, just going to make your life easier. So now, are you going to make every customer happy? Absolutely not. But we want to mitigate the amount of them that are pissed off with us, and we want to have more of them that are happy with us, all right? And then what I would say is, we've talked a lot about different things, right? I have 5 deadly sins of AI. The perfection launch, nothing is ever perfect. AI changes every 10 bloody minutes, right? Do not overly obsess with it. 80% is as close to perfect as you're ever going to do, right? Reduce the time, right? Tool first mentality pisses me off more than anything else in the world, right? Get fixated on your plan, your strategy, what is about your business, map your customer, and then pick your tools. I don't care if your friend says Claude Code is the coolest thing in the world. It's irrelevant.
Exactly.
Right? I use Base 44 as a vibe coding tool. I've got some very good friends that work in Lovable and in Replit. I like Base 44. I find it an easy tool. It's not because it's the best tool. It was just for my particular use case, it was the best for what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And as I said, I've got good friends that work in Lovable and other tools. It's irrelevant, right? What I would always say for everyone is, don't set and forget AI when you're building these systems that I've just showed you, right? You are going to be able to set them, yes, but you are going to edit them. There's no 2 ways around it, right? There's little things that you're going to tweak and change. I like to have a 30-minute optimization sprint every Monday, where I look at the monthly strategy. I look, is there anything that I can change or update that's going to make it better for my strategy long term? And then again, we do a quarterly deep dive to see if there's anything that we can optimize and fix, right? More is more. That is not true, right? Simplicity. If you got nothing from my session today, get that. Simplicity wins. So minimize the number of forms you have in your website, right? Reduce the amount of words that you have in your emails. Don't put loads of links in them, right? Same thing with WhatsApp. Don't add loads of WhatsApp. Earn the right for someone to reply to you, right? Don't have a million KPIs. Right? Just don't. Like, have one KPI. It might be ARR. It might be conversion rate, right? Do not fixate on 25 of different KPIs. Focus on one, and you will have sub KPIs, but focus on one. It'll make your life easier, right? And then the last one is, technology will save you. No, it will not. Strategy, process, technology last. Always in that, right? People, process, technology. We lose. We've just got a process and a technology, and it's just going to be a car crash, right? Long term. So remember, AI amplifies shit, right? Bad will get worse.
Yeah, it does.
So again, why I'm a big fan of keeping it simple is because if you keep it simple, what's good will consistently amplify. It'll get bigger and better and bigger and better and bigger and better. Right?
Yep.
Keep it simple as much as you can, right? And then my last passing thought for everyone is, some of you will be on this call and you'll be saying, "Oh, where do I go? How do I start?" I have a very simple 30-day transformation framework. If you follow this in 30 days, you will be way closer and you will have built a model that makes sense for your customer, for you, and for scale. Okay? But it won't work if you genuinely miss a single step of this. And I mean that because you want to simplify everything so it falls into those main categories as best you can, right? And again, don't bite off too much more than you can chew. And what I say to people is about, I would say 10% of you on this call are actually going to listen to me. And that's fine. Because that 10% are going to be the ones that are going to transform their GTM and are going to have a successful business in a few years' time. Don't be the 90%. Please don't be. Okay? Because if you're the 90%, what's going to happen is you're going to look back on this or another session that you do in a year or two's time when your cash flow is at zero, you've got no money sitting in your bank account, and you don't know how you're going to pay your employees. Because you cared more about yourself and your vanity metrics than you did about actually building a scalable, sustainable, long-term business. And for me, that's the thing that keeps me in the startup, scale-up eco space as long as I have, is because simplicity compounds. We want to build something that our grandparents, our grandchildren are proud of. And the only way you're going to do that is keeping the lights on and keeping money in the bank account.
Absolutely.
All right. Questions. I know there's a couple of questions in. Ahmed, yes, we'll share which is the slides. If anyone does have any questions, like hit me now. I'm more than happy to spend some time and answer them.
Yeah, sure. If you guys can if you have any questions, could you just leave them in the comments? That would be great.
I think you're on mute. Maybe I just can't hear you.
Ahmed, if you guys want to get the slides, if you can just whoever wants to get the slides, just make sure that you type in the comment that you want the slides so that we can deliver them to you. Or if you registered in the webinar series form, we can just send it off in an email as the resources for this webinar. So either or, whatever you guys need. So I think we have a couple of questions here. Until someone actually posts in the comments a question that we can discuss, I wanted to take your opinion about something that is going on recently. About I know you're a huge advocate for simplicity, but some people get obsessed about tools and what it does, and there is a lot of hype right now about Claude and Claude Code and how it replaces Play. So I wanted to know your thoughts on that from your perspective and your philosophy. What do you think?
I totally get it. Yeah. So like, I'm because I'm such a fan of simplicity. And I'm also a fan of not spending money. If I'm being honest. So I think like, for me, I like Claude Code because I can get the answers to what I want as quickly as I possibly can. And we have an ethos in Instantly as well, where we believe in keeping things back to first principles and kind of being almost the Apple for outbound, right? Is like, how can we keep it so simple that someone can just get what they want without having to do 800 million clicks, right? And that is, to me, that's also what Claude Code is. It's like, I can speak to it and I can get what I want. And I think that's why people are really leaning towards it. Is it's so noisy out there on all the different things that you could do. I don't need a degree to get what I want by using, systems like Claude Code or even Codex from ChatGPT or from OpenAI. Like, it's easier to actually figure stuff out by just keeping it simple. And again, I'm just such a big advocate of it. Like, we have that in Instantly at the moment. We have a sales AI agent, and basically you just put in your URL and it'll find your ICP, it'll find you customers, and all you need to do is click send.
Exactly.
And, like, but that's the level of simplicity we want to get to. And for me, that's what, in particular, that's what Claude Code is for me. It's simplicity to something that's really complex. How can I make it simple?
Yeah, I do agree with you, to be honest, when it comes to because Clay is such a complicated tool, but Claude made it a lot easier. But and this gets me back to your point about simplicity beats sophistication, because I think what's going to last when it comes to outbound is the strategy part. The tools are going to come and go.
Yeah.
With the development of AI, tools are going. It's almost every week we listen, and we listen about a new tool that came into the market, and it's cool and should be you should try it, and so on and so forth. So I think what's going to stay here is understanding the customer, actually drafting a strategy before starting execution outbound. So I'm totally on board with what you just said.
Yeah,
so,
and I think like I know there's a few questions in here about different business models, and I'm like, for me, I always go back to the same question when someone asks me about a business model. So Mohammed, I'm going to pick on you because you asked about real estate. Okay, so like with real estate, I'm like, there's so many different avenues with that, right? Is it that I'm selling sort of mortgages? Is it the actual product? Is it developers? Is it so on and so forth? And I think like the signals that we use is going to be so different from that. But again, going back to my simplicity point, I would be looking at your customer base first. I would take all your closed won customers in past, and I would look for signals of those people first. And then that's what I would then start building my strategy for my outbound strategy off the back of that. So again, use what you already have. Even if you've only got 2 or 3 customers, you'll be surprised by the signals that you will take from them. That's where you start, and then you build from there. Right. So regardless of the market, that's the first thing I would advise everyone to do.
Yeah, makes total sense. I think we have another question from Ahmed Aitman here. He says the SaaS as if it was made for a 10-year-old kid, or it be used. Is that true?
Yeah, I would agree. Like, keep it so simple that like it's unbelievably simple to understand. That's what will again make it easier for get the people and that daily active users in the SaaS world. You can get them using the tool consistently by just keeping it super simple.
Yeah, makes total sense. So Ahmad Raslan here asks, what if a company sells multiple products/services to different ICPs? That adds complexity by default. How do you simplify?
So again, I'll use the example of Instantly. Okay, so we have a service business and we have a software business. You would think that they're 2 completely different things, but realistically, we have when you actually dig into the research on your multiple products or multiple services, you'll find there's commonalities, even though you think it's more complex than it is. The likelihood is that you'd probably have 4 ICPs, even if you have up to 10 products or services that you're selling. It's very unlikely that you actually have many more than that. You might have sub ICPs, but I can safely guarantee you that 80% of your customers are probably going to be made up of 1 ICP.
Absolutely. At least 1 ICP.
So go back over your customer data. Go back, customer data.
Yeah.
It's your crystal ball for the future.
Yeah, your ICP lives in the CRM. You know exactly.
It's already there. You already know who they are. You just haven't looked at them yet.
Yeah, This is exactly what I do. I have a Claude skill that actually analyzes the customer's Excel sheet filled with clients to find out the pattern, and it gets the ICP from the clients. No
Yeah,
matter.
and do it monthly.
Yeah.
Like I do it every month. And it changes. Like the four core ICPs stay the same, but there's always a new branch that you were like, oh, it's something fun to play with and to work on and to test and to look at. And that's what keeps me, I suppose, in GTM as long as I am.
I always advise my customers to focus on by 80% on their ICP, their proven ICP, and then if you want to explore around and see what opportunities are out there, you can just do that by only 20% of the effort, no more than that, just to keep the lights running. So this makes total sense. Omar here has a very interesting question. He says, if you were starting from zero tomorrow with no brand, no network, no budget, and what is exactly you'd run to land your first 10 customers? What would you do?
Wonderful question.
Yeah.
I would take a hypothesis ICP to start with. So I'd look at my product type. I would go out there and I would interview as many people as I possibly can. And I wouldn't sell, I would interview. So I'd understand essentially with my product / service / MVP, I would go in and interview my hypothesis my CP, and then I would take that raw data and then I would define a proper ICP. Then I would go and instantly, honestly, I would go and do, I would use our super search tool. I would fill in my ICP information. I would find a list of a thousand potential good fits. I would obsess over the first email that I would send, and then I would probably have about a 3 or 4 email sequence. I would then have a LinkedIn in-mail going between email 1 and 2. I would do thought leadership information on my LinkedIn about that particular ICP's pain point. And then at that point, I'd be fairly confident I would have 10 customers.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. The thought leadership content is literally one of the quick wins, exactly like the 5-minute reply window. Thought leadership and fast response. I think if you guys like implemented only those 2 things out of this entire webinar, you already won.
You're gonna win.
Okay, great. Owen, I know we've been like it's been an hour. I know. So I want to thank you so much for your time. You delivered some really interesting insights. I'm really thankful for that. And as you told me, like you have a very interesting gift for those who lasted to the end of the webinar. A special gift from Instantly. Do you want to tell us a little bit?
Yeah. So for anyone that stayed with us, we'll send this on afterwards as well. But what I'm going to sort of put it out there for everyone is that I would love if you tested our sales agent. For those of you that have, we've also got a deliverability agent. But we're going to give away some extra credits. You'll get some free credits if you haven't used Instantly before. You can sign up. You'll get some free credits, and then anyone that has attended today, I'm going to give you extra credits on top of that as well. For anyone that is interested, I do run a webinar series as well around GTM strategies. So just follow along my Instagram or my LinkedIn, I should say. You'll find out loads of bits and pieces. I'm always just giving, if I'm being honest, unfiltered truths about GTM. I do not believe in just doing the status quo. I genuinely believe in the it's good for everyone. So if anyone does want access to it, just as I said, feel free, or anyone that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help people out as much as I can. But at least if I can get you some free customers using Instantly, I'll be very happy by that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it, and I will post for you guys. We have a QR code on the screen right now, so that you guys can get the gift, and I will post it as well on the LinkedIn section, the comment section, so that you guys can have access. it's a Google form. If you can just sign up with your name, and then Owen will get those names, and you have to have your Instantly account signed up first. Do you want to talk about that so that they can?
Yeah, so first step, very simply, is just if you sign up for an Instantly account, you can get that just directly on the website, and then there's a little link in that form that'll show you exactly where you just need to find your workspace ID. If you just put your workspace ID into that form, I'll be able to add some credits for you, probably early next week, to be honest, because it is a bit manual at the moment. But and then for anyone that's interested, we'll pass on as well the slide deck from today's call.
Yeah, sure. We can totally do that. And if you guys have any other questions, please let us know in the comments. And I think that'll be it.
Yeah, sweet. Well, first and foremost, thank you everyone for staying with us during this session. I hope you found this this useful, and as I said, follow along. I'm excited to join the rest of your sessions as well here. I think this is a really good initiative. So keep up the good work and keep educating the space around GTM, because
we really need that. Because
in the Middle East and Africa, we've got an unfair advantage right now for anyone that is ahead of the curve in terms of, you know, this is the AI moment. It's the Google moment. It's the .com moment. Like with GTM, there is an opportunity to take your unfair advantage, and I would say jump on it when you get a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, not a lot of people here in the Middle East talk about GTM and how to use it and how to integrate it with outbound and how to integrate AI and automation in the right way, not to just cram everything in a way that doesn't really make sense. So whoever knows about GTM strategy and how to implement it, I think this will be a very clear advantage, even for like 2 or 3 years from now, to be working in a strategic way, not just in a tactical way, not to obsess about the tools, but strategy before the tools. From my experience, this gets a lot of results fast. So thank you so much, Owen. You've delivered a lot of insights, and really appreciate your time and effort. And I want to say, we can do this another time. That would be awesome. I'm sure the audience loved the insights and the depth that of those insights that you delivered today. And
I will be back in Egypt again, and that's the good news. I will be with the guys from Rise Up Summit again this year, speaking at it. So TBC on that, but we'll grab a coffee when I'm over.
Yeah, absolutely, we'll do that for sure.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Later, bye.